Hi, Mom, and a few other people who are watching. My name is Snorri Hallgrímsson. I have a new single out. It's the title track from my upcoming album called I Am Weary, Don't Let Me Rest, which is going to come out on Moderna Records. I just wanted to give you a very quick insight into the process that went into making this music, making this song, and I'm just going to get straight to it. So, what we've got here is a session. This is not the actual mixing session or anything like that. This is just a session with all the stems. And if you don't know what the stems are, these are sort of grouped individual tracks. So instead of having a huge session with 50, 100 tracks in there, I have all the pianos in one track, all the strings in one track, and so on, bass, brass, and ambience. And I don't want to talk about plugins or technical things or anything like that. Just a very quick overview of what makes this incredibly simple song what it is. So the title, I Am Weary, Don't Let Me Rest, refers to a lot of things and it has multiple meanings to me, but one of them is simply that when I wrote this track, I was tired. And when I'm tired, I write simple music. I lean into my, I'm tired, and so I'm just writing very simple music, but also I'm leaning into my strengths, and one of my strengths, I think, is being able to take something that's really simple, really minimalist, and just build on it. And so, let's look at some of these elements here. As you can see, it's very simple. It's just piano, strings. There's a very subtle bass that comes in the climax of the piece. There's a chorus of trombones, and there's some very minimal ambience. And I just want to go through these elements a bit quickly. The piano, there are a few different pianos that play here. It starts out like this, the track. And as you may or may not notice, there's a filter on the piano. So I wanted it in the beginning to sound a little bit like it's coming from below us or even underwater. But then sort of towards just before the climax of the piece, you can actually hear this filter opening up. For example, probably around here somewhere. Now you can hear the filter on this low piano that you heard in the beginning has opened up. You may have noticed also there was a bit of a synthesizer in there that just means that I exported the stems wrong, which happens when you're in a rush at the very end of the process. A very good way to notice this different with the filter on is just to listen what it sounds like at the end of the song. So that's with the filter off. That's just the piano as it sounds, really. But here it is in the beginning again. So it's just a very simple but effective, effect. Me speak English good. To help with the dynamics of the piece. It's a bit like putting your hand over your mouth, and it just makes it feel like it's coming from somewhere below, and it made it kind of more ethereal to me. You may have also noticed that there are these other pianos that come into play. Here. this higher piano. This is a very, very simple technique that I've used 1,000 times before, and I'll probably continue to use 1,000 times again. So my music very rarely is rhythmical. It's all about texture and atmosphere normally, which means that whatever little rhythmical thing I do can be so effective because, when there's so little rhythmical, when there are few rhythmical things happening, whatever I do has a huge effect. And here, what I'm doing basically is that the main sort of piano that you're hearing here is in 2, but then rhythmically I'm bringing in the high piano in 3 against those 2. So it creates this 3 very, very basic, simple 3 against 2 polyrhythm. It's been done 1,000 times before, but it's very effective, and it just brings a little bit of, it gives a lot of, it makes it a lot more interesting, and brings in a lot more tempo, and it speeds it up. It gives you the illusion that it's speeding up a bit even. And the way we mixed this higher piano is, we exaggerated the mechanical noises of the piano, and you might notice that they're very apparent, and that's because all I wanted to hear from this upper line was the rhythm, was the rhythmical aspects. I didn't really care about the notes even. I just wanted to hear the of these triplets that are playing. And later on I double that line in voicings here. And that's basically the piano. The strings, very, very simple things again that are happening here. And what I like to do when I'm building on such simple things, and I don't think about it so consciously, but it comes very natural to me to build from the bottom up. And that means, in this case, I have a string quartet, so cello, viola, and 2 violins. And that means I'm starting with the cello. And you'll hear the chord progression go 1 round with just the cello. Is joined in, and then you'll hear the chord progression once with cello and the viola. The next round, second violin. This round with cello, viola, second violin. And that just leaves us with the first violin, which is going to join us here. String players playing. And now we're getting to the point, which is kind of my favorite thing about this track, is that, so this track is, like I said, it's so incredibly simple. It's probably one of the sort of more cheesier romantic songs that I've ever done. And in order to not go over the top to not just like melt all the cheese directly into your mouths at once. The key element for me was to hold off on the main melody. So you have this chord progression that goes on throughout the entire song, but there's also this very romantic melody that sort of carries the song. But I tried for as long as I could to hold back on bringing it in. So you don't actually hear the main melody of the piece until 2.5 minutes in. So that is around here. So there it is. And it's in the viola. I very often use the viola for my melodic content. Simple reason being just I love the viola. I think it has such a warm, deep, beautiful sound. Another reason is just that when I'm writing, I often sit at the piano, and then when I'm trying to think of melodies, I'll hum them. And the viola, where the viola sounds best, in my opinion, for this type of music, is often in the same register as where my own voice sounds the best. So it just feels like a very natural substitute for my voice. And I've even played around with this in my earlier music. If you are familiar with my track Be Still My Tongue, for example, then it starts with my voice, but then the viola sort of takes over the solo line very naturally from the same note. So that's very purposefully done there. But love the viola for solo lines. And the viola is going to keep having the solo line pretty much throughout the rest of the piece. Then later on in the climax, it's going to be joined by the first violin is going to double up on the main melody with the viola. So you hear the first violin has the same line as the viola, but 2 octaves above, whereas the second violin and cello are sort of, have a secondary line in between. And that's pretty much it with the strings, and the track sort of ends again with the viola having the last solo melody here. That's it for the strings. The bass is just very, very simple for the climax. I can solo it, but it's not going to sound very exciting. And that's just from this Juno 106 synthesizer I have right behind you. And the purpose of it is not to be heard, but it's just adding this bass to the piano. You can hear the piano. Now the piano is just soloed, but let's add in the bass. Just gives the whole feel more depth and gravitas, and just makes it more dramatic in this very climactic moment. I have some trombones here, which I had such a fun time working with trombones. Not often that I've used brass in my music. And they start here in this interlude period. So So I've built the song up for a bit, but then I sort of quietened it down again. So now it's just the pianos and then trombones. And they're very much imitating what the cello was doing in the beginning of the piece. You can hear that when the cello re-enters right here. Here actually you'll hear this secondary melody, which is important to the climax of the piece. It goes like this. It's the same line that the viola ended with right here. The secondary melody, its role is kind of to fill up the space in between the main melody. So the main melody phrase is this, you know, you're familiar with it now. And then you have the brass trombones go fill up that space with this one. And then you go back to the main melody. Secondary one in the trombones. And you'll notice that the cello and the second violin are actually doubling up on this secondary melody with the trombones. So you'll have the first violin and viola are doing the main romantic melody, but then, second violin and cello plus the trombones are taking care of the secondary melody. So you'll hear the cello sort of playing around on top. More here, I think. And that's pretty much it for the brass. So all that we've got left is this very minimal ambience here. These are two extremely simple elements. So the first one is just this. You hear kind of throughout. And this is just noise. This is just from the same Juno 106, a noise wave that I've treated a lot, but it just gives this airiness. It kind of sounds like a wave, almost like an ocean wave, but it adds to the airiness of the you know, when you play the strings, the bow kind of has this sound, and this kind of is an add-on to that. And then with it, I have this processed cello. It's actually not a synthesizer, like I said before. I lied to you, I'm very sorry. It's a processed cello that I sampled myself from this amazing French cellist, Cécile Lacharme, who I recorded last year and made my own sample library from. I'll talk about her more in future videos, I'm sure. But yeah. So that this sort of very surreal, ethereal sound, this is the processed cello. You know, I take the sound, I map it onto the keyboard, and then I kind of play it by myself on the keyboard. and you can hear the noise wave is there underneath as well. I sort of, yeah, automate that, so when the process cello goes up in dynamics, the noise wave comes with it as well. And this, this doesn't play a key role in the track itself, this ambience, but it's still so crucial. It's like the salt and pepper in your meal. Like, it really makes everything so much more interesting, brings the flavor out of the track. There's a link to the full track below. I hope you listen. I hope you enjoy. I hope you enjoyed this video. My name is Snorri. See you next time.